Now we're live.
All right.
The metaverse? Were you in the Facebook meta? No?
Well, yeah, to share it, right?
Yeah. Good times.
Stupid meta.
Right on. All right,
What
well,
something's going on with StreamYard and meta today, right?
really?
Isn't that what it said?
I don't know. I didn't get that one.
It said something right when I logged on today
Um,
on the StreamYard.
I don't know. I did not see that. So, all right. I'm ready when you are. We can make it do what it do.
All right. All shared
All right.
already. I can't promise I'm awake, Trinity.
Me either, so we're good. That's all right.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage.
Let's do it.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. Although this morning it feels a little bit more like a BB gun, but that's okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome to exactly. Welcome to Dope and Dharma. As always, this is Dharma Time on Tuesdays. Well, I say always, even though we haven't done it in a while. But anyways, he
intentionally
is
always. Intentionally
exactly,
always.
exactly. He is the Dope Doctor, and I am the Dharma guy, and together we are Dope and Dharma. This is the Dharma Time Hour, brought to you on Tuesdays, live. Usually, sort of, kind of, should be. Although, if you are tuning in live, I'd like to thank you all because you're missing out on Spain and Morocco. Although last I checked, it was 0-0 for the World Cup.
I'm not missing out. I got it right there.
Oh, okay. That should be a good one, right? I mean, Spain. Well, I think Spain is a little bit overmatched for Morocco. I think Spain's going to probably pull it out easily, but nothing like Brazil yesterday, though. My gosh, Brazil, that looked like the Harlem Globetrotters against the Washington Generals. Man, it was pretty bad. But anyways,
I love Brazil.
Yeah, they're which is weird because they haven't won enough, right? Like they haven't won in a while.
Yeah, but it's good. Let's do it for Pele, Brazil. Let's do it for Pele. He's sick in the hospital. Legend, Brazilian legend. Perfect time to do it.
Sure. So anyways, as we noted at the top of the show, it's been a while since the last Dharma Time. I think it was I want to say October we did one. We haven't done many of our shows actually. We started last week. We started doing the couch live again last week and this week on Monday evenings. For those of you keeping track, you can catch it all out on YouTube. Go to Dope and Dharma, or we actually just redid our website. So by all means, go to WPSN99.com. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. Or no, that's actually our Facebook one. But either way, WPSN99.com. You can find it there as well. So if you're ever curious about what other shows we're doing, because we have this one, of course, Dharma Time. We have the Couch Live on Mondays. And then on Fridays, we typically try to do We the Middle, where we talk about politics and other things that are happening.
We have lots to talk about on that realm, man. Man, we got to do a We the Middle show soon.
Yeah.
By the way, welcome Marissa. She's just got done with a workout. She's watching on Facebook Live.
Right on. Very cool. Thank you for joining, Marissa. So anyway, let's just go ahead and dive right in, man. So we there's been a lot of stuff happening, not only in the world but in our own lives as well. And so I was kind of like, where do we want to start, right? It's our first Dharma Time in a while, spirituality, like where do we start? And last night, Dope Doctor over here kind of brought up a show topic that at first I was like, I didn't understand, but when he kind of mentioned it, I think that was a perfect place to start, right? Because it kind of encompasses what we're talking about as far as what's happening in the world and in our own lives and just everywhere else. And so the title of the show today is Commit. And what we mean by that is whenever you find your path, whatever that may be, right? If it's a religious path, if you found your religion, if it's a spiritual path, if you found your whatever your spiritual kind of awakening or whatever it is, you kind of have to commit to it, right? You kind of have to kind of go all in. And what I mean by that is so when I first when I first came across Buddhism, I thought it was complete BS. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was an atheist. I was raised in a Christian household. At some point that stopped answering questions for me. It just stopped. I stopped vibing with it for whatever reason. And so I kind of went way far off the deep end as far as anti-religious anything. So if it even had any religious undertones, I was anti. I didn't want anything to do with it. And then, my life started to kind of become more and more difficult, and I needed something. And so the idea of something bigger than myself made sense at that point, and I found it. But when I first came across Buddhism, I just wasn't interested. I was just like, nah, whatever, man. I'm good. I don't need any of that stuff. But the fact that it was around for thousands of years and it helped so many people, like I didn't want to seem arrogant to the point where, nope, I'm the one that it can't help, And so I looked into it and it made sense. However, I'm the type of person that I was skeptical. I didn't think it was going to work for me. But I can't tell people it didn't work if I didn't try it. That's the kind of person I am. My integrity won't let me be like go into it halfway and not really do it and tell you it doesn't work, because then I feel like somebody could always come to me and be like, well, you didn't even try it, so like I'm the type of person that if I'm going to tell you it doesn't work, I've legitimately dedicated some time and effort and I really looked into it. And so when I started reading some of these ideas like the Four Truths, the Eightfold Path, I legit started doing them, right? Like I legitimately committed to it. I fought my instincts in certain situations and I was like, okay, well, what I'm reading what I'm reading is telling me to do this. What I want to do is this over here, but that hasn't been working for me. And if I'm really going to prove this thing wrong and prove that this is all BS and it doesn't work, then I'm going to have to actually do it that way. And that way I can have evidence to show, hey, I did it. It didn't work. So I started doing it that way. I fully committed against my better judgment, against my desires. I committed to this particular path and what it was telling me to do, all in. And when it worked, like it started to work. I started to get more.
It's yet to be determined, but okay,
yeah.
I'll let you go if it worked.
Well, it started to.
I was kidding.
Yeah, but it started to I just started to get some inner peace, right? Like my mentality didn't change yet. Like I still believe certain things, but I started feeling different. Like I didn't have as much angst in me. I started getting more peace. And the only reason why I did is because I was doing something different. So I was getting different results. And so, I sat out to prove it wrong, but by fully committing, I actually reap the benefits. I reap the rewards of what fully committing does. And I would not have reached that. There would be no Dharma guy had I not initially fully committed to it. And that's what we're talking about. And so there's so many people over the years that I've kind of talked to about this in both religious and non-religious contexts, right? So I've only met, I'm probably gonna upset some people, but so I've met a lot of people who are in the religious world who have dedicated aspects of their lives. But if you're being very nitpicky, you can find areas that maybe they're not following it to a T, right? And one can make the argument is we're humans, we're flawed or whatever. I've met one person in my life that I would say is pretty close to following it to a T.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. There's a buddy of mine who's a Jehovah's Witness, and just some of the things he would do, I felt were kind of weird and very strict. But when I would talk to him about it, his answers were, that's what the Bible tells me, so that's what I'm doing. And it wasn't convenient in many areas of his life, but he was still doing it. To whereas I know a lot of people who, if it's a certain rule or a certain idea or whatever, and it's not convenient, then you're like, oh, that was old times, it's different now. They explain it away, right? And for certain things, it's very trivial and it doesn't really matter. But when you start getting to the heavier stuff, you really can't explain those things away. You kind of need to do what they're telling you to do, right? And the other example I would give is over the years, I would have people come to me and tell me spirituality doesn't work. Be it religion, be it Buddhism, whatever it is, they would come to me, oh, that stuff doesn't work. I'm like, really? Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Like when was the last time you read, part of the book? When was the last time you attended whatever ceremony or whatever it is? And they would always have an excuse. It'd always be like, oh, well, I was busy. I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. I was like, well, it doesn't sound to me like you fully committed, right? It sounds to me like you like the idea of it, but you didn't actually go through with it. You didn't really follow the precepts. You didn't really follow the path. And that's what we're talking about today. if you find yourself in a difficult spot, but you have a higher power, be it religion or spirituality, are you really following the precepts of it? Are you really kind of like, if you're a Christian, are you witnessing to others? Are you attending church? Are you praying on a regular basis? Are you reading the Bible on a regular basis? If you're Buddhism, right? If you're Buddhist, how often are you reading the word? How often are you cognizantly practicing the four truths and the eightfold path? Are these things that you made a part of your daily life? And that's what I don't think people realize is, much like like a foreign language. It's, if you don't use it, you lose it. I was pretty fluent in Spanish and some French when I was younger because I was going through classes and I knew quite a bit.
Oh, that's why you defend the French with me all the time.
No, I'm just not a hater.
Now it makes sense.
I just don't hate the soccer team. I think they're going to win again, by the way. World Cup, by the way.
I don't hate. I'm just not a fan of the French.
Sure. But anyway, so I knew some of it enough to have like basic full on conversations with people. And then as the years went by, I didn't make it a part of my daily life. I didn't really commit to the idea of knowing and being fluent. So now, I vaguely remember some things, but not enough to have a real full on conversation. So the same thing with spirituality or whatever your path is. If you're not consciously making a choice to walk it every day, making it a part of your daily life, you'll start to kind of drift away from it. Right? I mean, is that what you had in mind, by the way, when you brought it up, Mr. Dope Doctor?
Yeah, well, exactly what you explained, because I think whatever you do, you should commit. I mean, I constantly use the analogy of a trick on a bike, like what you used to do, right? Like,
Right.
Or the tricks that I thought I was trying to do on a bike. I when I wrecked really bad, I didn't fully commit to the jump or the climb. That was my extent of my stunts on a bike, was either climbing like Kalichi Mountain, or a jump. And if you didn't commit, you're going to go back down that mountain backwards, sideways, roll down, or on a jump, you're going to land wrong and you're going to bounce and hurt and fall. So the only way to really do things is by commitment. And it's no different in life. I'm not a plan B kind of person with certain things. With career, I don't think you should be a plan B. Now, that's not saying put all your eggs in one basket. What I'm saying is, mentally and physically, you do what you want to do. No plan B. If you want to play music, and you say, I want to be a musician, blah, 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 that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But then you go work at a restaurant and you go, get an accounting degree, whatever. You're not fully committing. Now, you think you're playing safe. And I know your family and your parents probably says, you got to get a degree, you got to have a job just in case. A lot of people don't make it. But if you want to play music, it's not about making it. It's about playing music. So whether you're that person that at 50 years old, you're still playing dive bars, or you're the rock star, that's irrelevant. The money is irrelevant at that point, if what you really want to do is play music, because little money or a lot of money, you'll find a way to live with both, by the way. Right. So that's not the issue. And it's no different with spirituality or faith, sobriety, recovery, working on mental illness, whatever your challenge is. Whatever you're trying to do, if you don't fully commit to it, then you're half-assing it. And if you half-ass, you get, half measures availed us nothing, is what so many of us say, right? You get nothing out of it. And then you blame the process rather than trusting the process and commit to it. Like, there's a reason you got size 36 arms. You know what I mean? And that's because real early on, when you had, my size arms, like when you were 5, you started lifting your rattle. And you knew, wow, I'm gonna keep lifting my rattle with this arm and lifting my bottle with this arm, and I'm gonna trust the process. And then, as time went on, you're a beast, you're a monster. The growing the beard, it started off as stubble, and then you allowed the stubble to grow into hair, and then you allowed the hair to get past the itchy stage. Then you allowed it to get longer and longer to the point where it got to your beard. I'm still astonished when people look at someone like with a beard, like, you, oh man, that's impressive. What's impressive is that you committed. That's the impressive part. Your hair would grow too, people.
Yeah.
Just you choose to, like, at some point say, I can't do this. I'm not willing to go through the weird stage or the ugly stage or the stage that I don't want. And it's no different with spirituality. If you don't commit to it, it cannot help you when you need it most. And let me tell you something, we all get to the point. Every human on this friggin' planet gets to the point where you're in a foxhole of some type and you require something. And if you have faith right there that you've learned that early or some point in time in your life you said that you wanted to belong to or commit to, and you can't use it while you're in that foxhole, then why even have it? Why have it? It's like pulling out an empty gun and aiming it at me. You just screwed up, because if you're not firing that weapon, I'm going to grab that thing from you and I'm going to knock the hell out of you out with the butt of that gun. Can I say that on the Buddhist show? And I brought it to violence. Isn't that
say
weird?
Whatever you want, man.
But that's the truth, right? Like, if you're going to pull it out, use it. If you're going to have it, use it.
Right.
And that's the only way to even have it, in my opinion.
And you even use profanity, and we're good because we're not on Monday night.
Dude, last night, our guest on on Monday nights, people, we're on actually radio station, and you can't. And look, this is the I've gotten so used to being like this, the I can cuss here, right?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Some of our guests aren't used to that transition, so if they come like on this show, they can cuss. They go on that show, and it's like, all right, there's rules now. Remember, there's FCC out there, and I'm not paying a fine.
Dr. Pichardo did what, twice, I think he said.
Yeah, but he's going to Spain. He ain't paying the fine.
Oh man. No, but you're
three times, I think.
You're right though.
On a religious station, by the way. That's a gospel, that kind of station. Right?
No, you're right. Actually, using the example, for instance, of doing stunts and things of that nature, right? Oftentimes, what I'll never forget. There's a God, this was years ago now. Show Biggest Loser back in the day. I was watching it, and they were trying to, for those of you aren't aware, I guess, Biggest Loser take really large, morbidly obese individuals. They train them and do things and help them lose weight. So there was a moment where they were all gonna jump into this pool and do laps or whatever it was, and it's this moment stuck out in my head because it was the prime example of not committing and the disastrous results that can come from it. They were supposed to just jump off in like, I think they were supposed to use like a diving board or something. I don't remember, but bottom line is they were supposed to jump off. And for the most part, most people just ran and jumped and they were fine. But there was one person who was terrified of jumping into the water. They were terrified of getting hurt. And so they ran up like they were going to just commit and jump off. But about halfway, they decided not to, and they tried to stop. Well, in doing so, they slipped, and they actually hurt themselves. And so the idea was, if they had just committed and gone through with it and went all out, they would have been fine. They would have jumped. Everyone would have been fine, and no big deal. But because they didn't commit, they kind of like changed their mind, or they half-ass committed, as we said earlier. They actually slipped in, and their worst thought came true. They actually got hurt, right? Much in the same way of like vehicles. One of the things I had to teach my kids when I'm teaching them how to drive, if you're going to pull out into traffic or if you're going to change lanes, you got to commit. You can't decide about halfway pulling out into traffic that, I don't want to do this. You can't. It's too late now. Now you're a problem. Now you're going to get somebody hurt or an accident. If you're going to go, if you make the decision to do it, you got to go. Right. And so the same thing when it comes to spirituality or whatever. You can't half-ass it. If you half-ass it, then you're going to get bad results. What does she say? The fear inside makes you manifest exactly what you're afraid of, and you prove your reservations and insecurities right. Yeah, that's correct. Marissa, watching on Facebook Live, made that comment. But it's true, man. I see it so often, like, especially when it comes to spirituality. I see it in the sense that I can't tell you how many people over the years that I've done stuff with, be it in groups or even one-on-one stuff, and they hear, all right, so they're not doing well currently, which is why they're reaching out for help. Okay. Awesome. Good idea. But then when you start to help them, say, look, here's a path, and it makes sense. They're like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. But then they don't want to change anything, right? Like they hear the path, they think it's great, but when it comes time to actually choose it and start implementing it, that's when they want to start trying to keep all their old ways that got them in those old problems in the first place. And that you can't do. If you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. And these cliches, they sound cool, but they're true, right? They're around for a reason. You can't half-ass it, man. For me, that's So, and I'm not that dude that half-ass things. If I make my mind up to do something, I am that guy that goes in full-fledged, right? So when I decided spirituality was going to work for me, when I looked into it, once again, I just dipped my toes at first. And then as I started reading things, it started making sense on an intellectual level. Like, I didn't agree with it, but I could understand the science behind it, if you will. So when I finally made a decision, like, okay, well, this makes enough sense where I really want to do this, dude, I read way too many books. I watched, there's like a 10-hour documentary. I watched it uh almost all in one sitting. Like, I committed, I went all in, and I had this massive transformation in my life relatively quickly. It's not something that took me 10 years. It took me more than 10 years to get to where I'm at currently, but to make that initial adjustment where I started experiencing peace, I started experiencing what a healthy spiritual path can, provide you. I started feeling that really early, within the first like couple weeks to a couple months. I started feeling like, whoa, there's something to this. That doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes. That doesn't mean I didn't get off the path occasionally, but like, I had enough that I knew that, okay, this is something I need to be doing. And that's because I fully committed. I made sure every day I read some stuff. Like, a matter of fact, at the time when I first got into it, I was working nights. I had a newborn and another one on the way. I had a bad relationship, but so I couldn't sit there for 6-7 hours and really kind of focus on stuff. So what I did instead was every night there was some quiet time. Instead of vegging out or watching TV or whatever, I would crack the book and I would read. I tried to read a chapter a day, but what I did was, because I didn't, too often, and maybe whoever's watching this, maybe you guys make the same mistake. I would sometimes read stuff to get through it, not to understand it. Other words, I would read it just to say, "Yeah, I read a chapter." Did I really understand what I just read? No, but I read it. So what I would do is I would try to read a couple pages a day, more if I could get through it, but I would read it multiple times to really wrap my head and understand the philosophy in which they're trying to get me to understand. I wasn't just reading it to finish the page. I was reading it like, okay, what were they saying to me? What am I taking out of this? And so it took me a while to read the book because, once again, my first read through, I probably read it 4 times. My first read through. And then since then, over the years, I've read that same exact book. Oh my gosh, man. I probably read that particular book, I'd say at least 15, 20 times over the years.
Jeez.
And each time I've got something different from it. I'm at a different point in my spiritual journey to where something speaks to me a little bit differently, or I understand it differently. Do I sit down and read it from front to back like that no, I mean, but over the years I've read here and read a chapter or whatever. And then of course, multiple other books and documentaries, things of that nature. The point is, you got to commit, man. You can't half-ass it. You really can't. Because what's going to happen is you'll get into it. It makes sense. You start to try it, but then you don't want to give up the conveniences that you've grown accustomed to, right? As a fitness journey or fitness trainer, there was a meme that I used to post that I thought was hilarious, and it says, "I would do anything to lose weight except for change my diet and exercise." And if that's not indicative of us as human beings, right? We get complacent, we get into our little habits, and we want different, but we're reluctant to make the changes to get that difference. And when we do, we kind of like, we test it a little bit. And if we get any sort of like friction whatsoever, or if it's not immediately comfortable, oh, I'm not, yeah, it doesn't work. I tried that. But you didn't. You tried it for like an hour, you dipped your toes and it's like, no, I'm good. You got to commit. You got to go for it. You did the equivalent of pulling out of the traffic halfway and then stopping and say, no, I'm good. I tried. No, you didn't, And so I think I see that so much. And so I'm glad you brought the idea up last night, because I do think that's a good place to start. Because I think right now, gosh, dude, it's been rough, right? Like, COVID, I think, kicked off this weird thing that we're all living with now. I think the ripple effect of what COVID caused is still happening. I think locking people away for the amount of time that we were, and kind of being shut off, hurt us, of course, financially for a lot of people. But then mentally, I think it really did a number on us, our children, everybody. And I think we're all still kind of recovering from that. Like, we all have COVID quarantine PTSD right now. And I don't mean to say that in a light humored way, but like, I look around and I talk to people and I see things like it really impact. I don't think we are fully aware the depths to which that really impacted us as a society.
Right.
And I see a lot of people struggling and with politics, of course, and we're getting ready to have a presidential election here in this country, which is going to get probably nasty for some people. So I really think that right now is a good time if you're struggling to find something, find a spiritual thing for yourself and fully commit, figure out what that looks like and walk that path. What do you think, man? Have you seen some of the same stuff? Because you travel a lot. So
Yeah, and in traveling is where I saw the PTSD from COVID more, to be honest with you.
I bet.
Especially in the Northeast. When I went up to the Northeast area, the Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, that whole area.
Right.
Probably more so the Jersey, New York area, to be honest with you.
Really?
The amount of PTSD and all the nursing staff and the medical staff I speak to, when I mention that, like because part of when I speak, I get into some of, medical and nursing, obviously, because I'm talking about a medication a lot of times. So when I get into that, I could see it in their face. And then when I speak to them afterwards, I realize that it's not just the quarantining part, which obviously a lot of people just did not deal with that well.
Yeah.
And are still struggling with that. But the death and the fear of death. The fear of death in some people, I take it for granted how I don't fear death.
Same.
And I used to wear it as a badge of courage, like a cockiness. So I probably did fear death, but I would like be arrogant and cocky about it, like to not fear it. But when I watch how others have responded to the fear of death that we just all experienced, I do realize, wow, it became a thing for me. So at first it might have been fake for me, as a little kid, but then it became real. At some point it became real in that childhood. And so I really don't have that same fear that some of these people are still terrified. Yeah. And they're absolutely terrified. And I have to respect that. In getting back to the theme of committing to not only your faith, but to something, it's like, you're living, right? So don't live to die. Don't live in fear of dying. We are all dying. That is a guarantee. We cannot escape that truth. But the other side of that truth is today you are living. Right now you are living and breathing. And let me tell you something. You have to honor that. I feel, at least it's my opinion, you have to honor and cherish that breath, because there is somebody that would love to give 1 minute of your life to another individual that they lost. Just 1 minute. And that 60 seconds of life in another individual would be an amazing gift to somebody else. And here I can be flippant about it. Like it meant nothing. Just wasting it away. Doing nothing with it. And so it's those moments where I can get deep within my own brain and be like, man, I have to walk my own path. I have to cherish this moment. I have to understand that there is no plan B. I'm living. There's no alternative life. This is the life. This is the life I have been given. This is the body. This is the family. This is the structure in which I have dedicated hours and hours of passion and energy to. I have to commit to me. If I was a little teenager or a child, I can be flippant. I can be non-committal. I could still be looking for a path, but I'm not that person. There's way too many individuals dependent upon me, but nobody more than me, to me, because I have to live another day. I mean, I was watching, I don't know, have you seen this movie last night that Dana put on? What did she put on? It was called We're Okay, or We're Fine, I think, or Everybody's Fine. Everybody's Fine. That's what it is. It's a Robert De Niro, Drew Barrymore. These actors are in it. Everybody's Fine. And halfway in it, I'm like looking at her. I'm going, this is a very sad movie. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, because it's the theme of it. And I'm not going to give it away, but everybody's fine. Just look it up, Google it, watch it. Trust me, it's one of these things that as an older person, I'm looking at it, I go, getting old can be lonely. can be even if you have family, even if you have loved ones around you, even if you have things that you've built in a good way, because life changes. People grow. They get their own path. They go upon their own direction, just like I did, just like my parents did and the parents before them. I mean, there's look, we're not in Spain. Look, I'm watching Spain, but we're not in Spain. What is that?
You talking about the 2009 one?
Is that what it is?
Oh my God, dude.
Dude, I just saw it.
Dude, you got to get some new movies in your life.
Dude, I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm one minute I'm working, I get off the show and Dana's like, let's watch this movie. I'm like, all right. It was actually really good.
Right on.
But what I'm saying is that there's and by the way, old movies you're going to tell me old movies aren't good? You haven't watched old movies?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that because I'll still watch some older movies. I did not say that.
I've watched The Godfather probably just as many times as you've read your Four Truths. At least parts of it, not in whole, but at least like another 10 minutes of it.
Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
That's why you know that line. But anyway, so yeah, I think that in relation to this, I don't look, if you're out there and you have a different faith, if you're a Catholic, a Christian, a Muslim, Jewish, I rarely see, you brought up a Jehovah's Witness, and I'll tell you something about religions like that. There's certain religions that I find less and less people that are flippant about their religion and faith.
Right.
I don't see a lot of certain religions cheat a lot like I was raised. And, I'm not blaming the faith I was raised in. I happen to like it because you can kill somebody and apologize for it later. I just had to, say some Hail Marys and go in that little booth and I'm good, and don't hate, don't send me the hate mail. Let's keep it to yourself.
I still think doctor at you.
I like it. But the fact that I was raised with something gave me something. The fact that I was raised with something gave me something. Right. It taught me respect of other faiths, even of that one. And it taught me respect of doctrine, even of that. I don't have to believe in it, but I will respect yours, and I will respect the process of the ritual. And I think what I like about Buddhism has always been, and I've loved it since college when I learned about it, was the fact that there was a lot of common sense attached to it without a lot of the grandeur that I was raised with. It didn't have all the flair, it didn't have the leadership, it didn't have all the rules, yet it had some common sense things that I could commit to. So I did very early on. Now, I didn't know because I'm not a practicing Buddhist, but one could say, yeah, I do practice Buddhism because I practice a lot of the same things that are Buddhist philosophies.
I think a lot of people do
within my life. And so I have committed to certain things of how to live for myself and for others, and that has reaped the rewards. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's something I want to touch on that you said earlier, because it just made me think of my own life in that sense. You said everybody's living, right? And are they? Like I know for me, I got into a point in my life where I was so fixated on just doing this and getting through the day that I really wasn't living. I was surviving, right? Like I was surviving through the day, right. And I got accustomed to that, and I thought that that's what life really, that was it. Like your choice is either death or surviving. Because I had no shortage of drama or things that just weren't working in my life. Like, like most people, right. I could look around and just be like, yo, this sucks. I don't like that. This is difficult. And those are all true. Right. But that doesn't mean that's all you can focus on. Right. Like there is a way. You don't have to suffer from stuff.
Right.
And for me, that's what spirituality, more in particular Buddhism, brought to me. Was this notion that things can suck. That doesn't mean you have to suffer from it.
Right.
You can acknowledge it and move on with your day, right? And so that's when I found out, for me, this little rut that I found myself in, this complacency, I thought I was like, I'm living, I'm alive, man. Right. But I wasn't. I was surviving. I was avoiding death every day, but I wasn't really living my life. And for me, that's why I think spirituality and committing to it is so important.
Right.
Because when you start to commit to it and you start to kind of go through these things, it's like the great Deion Sanders, right?
Ooh, I love prime time.
If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good, right? It's all connected. Like
even just like he committed to Jackson State. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, he did. And then now he's committed to
that's right, Colorado.
Yeah. But anyways, it's I don't know. I think it's we get so complacent, we get so wrapped up in things, and we start to think that this is what life is, and why even bother, right? Or this is going to fail too, or this is going to, and you're right. If that's the path that you've chosen, if that's the mindset that you have, you're right. That's what's going to happen to you, But if you choose a different mindset and you practice different things, then you'll get different things. That's just part of it. Now, I'm not telling you if you practice different things, you're going to love all those new things, but they will be different. They're going to be different than what you had yesterday.
Right. and we all think we do it, right? Like we all think we're committing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like right now when you were talking, what came in my head is that there was when I had the record label and we had the group Bear Clan signed, right? We had a song, and don't get mad at me, another hate mail. I'm like looking for hate mail today. All right. So there was a song called Player's Definition on the album that we were working on, right? And it had a lyric and it would say, money, hose, and clothes. That's all this player knows. Right? So think about that. So here's a group that before any appearance or performance or taping or anything, they would pray. Then they'd go into the booth and sing money, hose, and clothes. That's all this player knows. That just hit me as ironic. And I didn't even think about it. So right when you were speaking, it reminded me, we thought that we had our priorities in check. This is what we're living for. All things be glory to God. They would say all these things. They would constantly be of faith. But then the way they were living, because I watched it,
was not.
There was nothing faith-driven about the lifestyle these brothers were living, and so which led to the demise of the group.
Sure.
But that's one of the things that we feel because we do a prayer every once in a while, or we feel because we do some sort of ritual that is faith-driven, that excuses all other behavior because we have this excuse on the back end that says we're all flawed and we all are sinners, right? So you could say we're all flawed and we're all sinners, and that's what the excuse we use whenever we fail. But some of you already have planned to fail. You knew damn well you were going to sin. You planned to sin. You excuse your sin. And I'm using sin because that's the way I was raised. Obviously, the doctrines I was raised, it's not something that you use in your practice or whatever.
Unskillful.
But yeah, there you go. So it's not that we have said we knew we were unskillful, so we just behaved unskillfully on purpose. That's not committing. That's committing to excuse making and to being as flawed as you are. And I'm not saying I live perfectly. I know I don't. We all don't live perfectly, but mine is working for me.
Right.
I'm not an unhappy person. I'm not a depressed person. I'm not an anxiety-ridden person. I had a lot of anxiety and anger and frustration and angst, like you said earlier, and I do not have that anymore. So what I've done is working for me. All we ask in this life is if something is working for you, keep doing it and do more of it. But if it ain't working, there's no medication out there that's going to give it to you. There's no counseling and therapy that's going to give it to you. It's those things in combination with you making the changes that will give it to you. I should have said none of that alone would give it to you.
Right.
Well, it's a combination of things because everything is a combination of things.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're 100% right. Like for myself, like what changed for me wasn't even all my actions per se, because I still participate in things that are unskillful. I mean, sometimes knowingly and sometimes unknowingly. But for me, what changed in my life was the second part of the Eightfold Path, right? Is right intention. Right intent means you got to stop coming from anger, greed, fear, lust, things of that nature, and you got to purposely cultivate or come from love, compassion, kindness, generosity, right? And that's your intent. And so for me, that's the point that matters, right? Is my intent going into something is what matters more than the outcome. And what I mean by that is it doesn't mean that I can go around and ruin people's days just because I had some good intent and be like, oh, sucks for you. No. What that means is my intent is I've got to come from a place of love and compassion for myself and those around me. And sometimes I don't. And so when I don't do that, the end result is not what I wanted it to be. And then I'm honest with myself. It's like, oh, you know what? I kind of snapped in that situation. I wasn't coming from love and compassion. And that's when I have to own it. And I tell the person, you know, hey, you know what? My bad, dude. I was kind of stressed out. I took it out on you, and I'm sorry for that. But if I do come from a place of love and compassion, and then that person heard something other than what I said, I'm not as attached anymore to the outcome. You know, if they went off and got upset about it, like, look, man, I'm sorry you took it that way, but that's not what I said, and that's not where I was coming from. I can rest in knowing that I did my part. I can rest in knowing, like, I'm not in control of the outcome. I'm only in control of how I present myself. The problem, though, is too many times we're not aware of that. Too many times we think that we're coming from love and compassion, and we're really not. You know, whatever was said or done kind of upset you, so you came back with a pretty snarky remark or some sort of insult or some sort of like low blow to that person, and it hurt them. And you're like, hey man, I was just no, you weren't. And that's the point where you got to be honest with yourself. Did you truly commit to that path? Did you truly live that way? Like, for instance, if you're from a biblical perspective, what you just did, what you just said, was it really Christ-like? Really? Like, take a step back. Don't worry about the context and how you felt. Just look at what happened. Did you come from a Christ-like perspective? And if you did, great. More often than not, I think you'll notice that maybe you didn't. You know, maybe you're a little upset. Maybe you're a little stressed out and you said or did something that you shouldn't have. That's what I'm talking about, is having that mindset of being honest with yourself of what was your intent when you did that. And so for me, you know, a lot of the end results are not always what I want them to be in every aspect, but I can take solace in knowing what my intent was. I'm coming from a good place. I did come out of love and compassion. And anytime I don't, and sometimes I don't, right? I'm unskillful like everybody else. Shoot, I'm still stubborn, man. So there's some days, man, where I purposely choose the unskillful one. Maybe I am heated and I knowingly like, nope, this is not a good idea, but I'm gonna do it anyways because I'm stubborn, whatever. But in those moments, I can at least come back almost immediately and be like, you know, that was my bad. Like, I was upset, and I can own it. And I think the people around me are aware of that, and they get it because we're all human. You know, they'll give me some grace in those moments. But the point is, being aware of that and being mindful of that is part of my path. And so when those moments happen, I can be aware because I fully committed to it. In other words, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm not trying to do something and then say, well, you know, hey, this person did this. No, man, at the end of the day, I chose the wrong path. You know what I mean? Like, I was unskillful in that moment and I shouldn't have. Right. And that to me is part of the commitment process as well. And just to reiterate about the whole, you know, things are connected, right? I don't want to tell people not to do the religious things. Excuse me. like you said before, like praying every day and then going out and doing this other stuff, right? That's always possible. But what I have noticed, though, is the little things kind of matter, right? The reading of the book on a daily basis. Other words, is it possible to read a passage of whatever your spirituality is and then turn around and go be unskillful and do something crazy? Well, of course that's possible. However, what you'll notice, though, is if you're mindful and you purposely take a moment out of every day to dedicate to whatever your path is, what you will notice is you're less likely then to go and do that crazy stuff later on. Right. It's not impossible, but you're setting your intent early on, right? Like an example, the thing that probably the most surprising thing that I found out in my fitness journey, right? When I opened up my fitness company years ago, I thought it was just about helping people look better. Really, that's all I thought it was. My goal was to help people lose weight or put on muscle or whatever it might be. And so over the years, I don't know, I think I did the math one time. It was like several 100,000 pounds I've helped people lose over the years. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But the point is, the thing that I'm most proud of And the thing that I'm most shocked by when I look back is the lives that were changed, right? And that I never understood. Like I never comprehended that going into it. I thought that this person, this dad coming to me wanting to lose some weight, to just feel better about himself, or this mom coming to me wanting to lose weight, and so we got started, right? I'm helping them lose weight, and I'm teaching them how to stay consistent. I'm teaching them how to be mindful of what they're eating, and kind of make all these little kind of almost ritualistic changes in their day. Meaning, like, before you eat, think about this, or track it, or all these other things, little things that seemingly mean nothing. But with those little things, what they added up to was like accountability, consistency. And so those same people, when I talk to them, months or even years later, sometimes their fitness journey kind of stayed with them, and sometimes it faltered a little bit. But what I was most amazed about was the changes that happened in the rest of their life because of those changes. Because they started doing these little, like, ritualistic, consistent things where they're putting themselves first, they started to kind of, some of them are getting, their family are happier now. They're getting their jobs back. They're all these other changes that seemed to be completely unrelated to if they went to the gym today, or if they tracked their food or not. And on face value, they are unrelated, but the way they are related is the mentality of, I'm going to intentionally do something for myself. I'm going to intentionally keep this consistency, making it important for me, which then by default or by proxy leads to other things. And so that's kind of why I think it's important to fully commit. That's why it's important, if you're trying to walk a religious path or a spiritual path, start your day with something that's related to that, because what you're doing is you're setting your intent. You're setting your intent for the day. It's easy to get caught up in stuff and forget, oh yeah, I'm trying to be this, It is, man. Even for me, I'm the Dharma guy, dude. But if I don't do something through the day to kind of remind myself, I can get so caught up in the drama of life that I can look back at my day sometimes and be like, dang, dude, this wasn't really a skillful day for me. And that's why it's important, even for me and for everybody, to start your day off with the intent. Set the intent right off the bat, man. If you're a Christian individual, read a passage of the Bible or something, or read like some scripture. If you're Muslim, same thing. Read some of the Quran. Whatever it is, your spirituality in today's world with all these apps and everything else, there are ways for you to incorporate it into your daily life very easily. And that's how you set your intent, right? It's much of the same as like gratitude, right? Start off your day thinking something you're grateful for. And if you start every day off listing like a couple things that you're thankful for that day, what you'll notice is when, at the end of the day, when you look back, you might notice that you're a little less negative throughout the day, right? Because you didn't start out thinking, oh God, dude, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this, it's stupid. You didn't start off thinking that way. You started off thinking, man, I'm grateful for this, I like this, I'm happy for this, which then led to how you interacted with everybody throughout the day, and it's like a ripple effect. And that's what I mean by commitment. You got to commit to it, man. You got to commit to this idea that I want different in my life. And if you do the little things, you'll notice that eventually they'll add up. For me, I never in a million years thought that I would be practicing any spirituality, let alone being the Dharma guy. Like, a matter of fact, when Louis first brought it up to me, I laughed at him. I was like, what? No, that's not who I am. But I just did the little things. I wanted different. I realized I wasn't happy where I was at, and I made little changes consistently enough, and I kept doing it. And I fully committed. And then, 10, 15, I don't know how, it's been at least 15 years now. It could be longer. I look back and I'm like, wow, look at the journey I've been on, and look at the way people perceive me. So,
but let's correct that. You said you weren't that guy, and I said you are that guy. Just
I didn't see myself
yourself.
as that guy.
Yeah, well, but you were already living it, is what I'm saying. In other words, I didn't say that and then you went and manifested it and created it. I mean, you were already being that. You were already speaking like that. You're already doing all that. And so all I did is offered you a venue and a place, and put people in front of you for you to just be yourself with. And then naturally it came out. Which is interesting because we both planned very differently. I remember you've gotten a lot more like me in these past few years. So I apologize for that.
You're a bad influence, man.
I am a bad influence. You used to be, you had to have a plan. You made lists.
I still do that.
You're very you just don't tell me. Yeah. You were very structured. And so So I thought that was really cool. But it's the natural, right? It's the natural stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we get along so well. I think we get along so well because we're just, at the end of the day, we could turn off the microphones, turn off cameras, and we're still ourselves, right? We're still who we are.
Yeah.
And that's why we do it the way we do it. I mean, we could obviously do it differently. Definitely could do it commercially. I just never really enjoyed the commercial life of this. I never really liked it. I didn't want to sell soap. All those early shows and TV shows that I did, the Couch Live in the early 2000s. I felt like I was selling soap for somebody. They want you to dance like a monkey, but they wanted to create the monkey. They wanted to own the monkey, and I'm like, that's not the monkey I choose to live and I think the same thing with faith. I think you have to be the monkey you are. You know what I mean? I'm faith driven because it feels good. I like that you brought up bookending the day, because I really believe in bookending the day, not only in the morning but in the night.
Right.
If it could be something as simple as when you do your whole morning routine, because everybody has a morning routine, whatever that is. I don't know. Some of you brush your teeth, some of you don't. And everybody has a night routine. Some of you brush your teeth, some of you don't. But your morning and night routine are pretty consistent. If you look at it, you're probably pretty consistent in your morning and night routine. So it's the easiest place to add something faith-driven. Yeah. It's the easiest place to add gratitude and appreciation, because you already do that routine. You don't forget. And as a matter of fact, you've probably noticed that if you break that routine somehow, you'll forget something out of that routine, because you brought it out of order. You can't, like, I have to do it in the same order, like, or else I'm going to forget. You know what I mean? So I hate putting on deodorant after I have a shirt already on. I hate it. It's annoying. You know what I mean? Pulling my shirt inside my shirt to put deodorant on is annoying. I want to do it while my shirt is still off, but not before I'm dry. Like, there's an order. You know what I mean?
Bruh, hold up, man. I gotta. You are 100% on, and I don't think most people even little things, right? Like, if you're watching this, just as like a homework, right? Because it's happened to me a few times, like on accident, and I've noticed it in the middle of it. Next time you're in the shower, start with the opposite arm.
Oh no,
just start with the opposite arm. Whatever you start washing off, start with the other one and see what happens. Because one time, so my wife likes to shower together. She saving water, whatever.
How do you guys fit? Wait a minute.
No, it's not, dude. It's so not comfortable, man.
I just stayed at a place in Vegas that you would love, by the way. It had two opposite ones on either end, two separate controls. That would have been cool.
On our honeymoon, when we were in Vegas, we had this massive. Oh, it was beautiful. Anyways, but because of that, like, because of the close quarters, sometimes I have to adjust differently, and it ruins the whole shower for me. I don't even feel clean afterwards because it messed with my routine of how I do it. I literally don't even feel clean. Like, I feel just gross afterwards sometimes. Right. And so, for those of you watching it, just to prove our point, the next time you shower, start with another arm, or next time you brush your teeth, try to do it with the opposite hand and just see what happens.
Go ahead. It's those things. And look, you didn't develop that overnight. Nope. And you didn't develop it because you wanted to develop it. Somewhere the training began, and you've done it your entire life. Now imagine that being true for feeling grateful and respectful to all life and your own life. Just imagine that. It would change your perspective. Some of you are getting ingrained in the perspective of the external doctrines instead of the internal doctrines. And what I mean by external doctrines, I mean by politics and stuff like that. You're getting fixated on that. And so you start looking at something like a hunter and viewing them as a bad person, rather than appreciating a hunter in the hunt. And what a hunter in the hunt does, they always thank the kill. They appreciate the kill. They respect the kill. They respect the nature. But somehow the doctrines of the world have even turned those individuals as if they hate nature, hate the world, hate the planet, hate people. That's not a truth. And those are the things that we get guided to. We get guided and manipulated and pushed in directions. And that's when you're not set in your faith, you can easily be moved in a direction of hate. You think you're love, but you're existing in hate.
without even knowing it.
Yeah, you think you're a good person, but you're constantly feeling negative about others. You think you're an inclusive person, that you include others, and you're a diverse person, but you are only that to those that agree with you or are like you or look like you. You think because you don't want to be a book judged by its cover that you're doing that, yet you judge books by its cover. And so those are the things that when you're committed to your faith, and you're committed to whatever doctrine you wrote for yourself or you chose to read and believe in, that someone has written before you and walked that path before you and then follow that path, whatever it is, follow it. Because I guarantee the more you dig into how you really behave, how you really speak, regardless of intent, how you're really forcing others to respond to you, you're not going to be 100% okay with it. As a counselor, as a person that does therapy for a living and helps people on a daily basis, I constantly redirect just some words that they said, and it changes the whole conversation because they didn't realize what they said and how that can make someone feel. And not only that, how it really makes them feel about what the others just said. We're constantly on pause, ready to play, rather than on record and then changing what we play.
Yeah. Nah, I couldn't have said that any better. I just caught a look at the time. I do have to go train somebody. So do you have any final, and I'm sure you have some amazing top 1% things to do too. So
no, what I would like to do with my time is Marissa probably said something real important there because I saw the word suicide in it. So let's put that up and go ahead and speak to that. And I'm done for the day.
She said, I'm glad you mentioned that, Louis. What really gets to me is the conspiracies on how people died. To me, it's extremely disrespectful to all loved ones of people who died by suicide or overdose to chalk it up to some conspiracy for every single one of them. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that one. And I think people do it unknowingly. So
yeah.
You said you don't have anything to add for the final wrap up there?
No, it's taco time for me.
It's not Tuesday though. Yeah, it is
Tuesday. Every time I get off a microphone, it's time for a taco, right? My brother.
I hear that. Anyways, so first of all, thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for bearing with us. I know it's been a while since we've been on. I think we're going to try to get a little bit more consistent, although it is the holiday season, so it's going to be a little bit difficult, I'm sure, but we'll do our best. In the meantime, if you guys want to follow up on anything that we're doing, you can go to the website right there. I just put it up, WPSN99.com. There has all of our social links, all of our old shows, all the podcasting for the different platforms. If you'd like to stay in touch, if you'd like to reach out to us for any reason, you can find links there to do so. I think my wrap up is going to be short and sweet today, man. And that is life is worth living. And sometimes we get caught up in existing, and we get caught up in the negativity of things. We get caught up in world not doing what we think it should, as opposed to appreciating what it is. And I think the best way to do that is to find a path, whatever that path is for you, whether it be religious, whether it be spiritual, doesn't matter, something bigger than yourself, and fully commit to it. Really kind of understand what that looks like and follow through. I think in doing so, what you'll notice is life starts to kind of take on a different tone. And when it takes on a different tone, you start to respond to it differently. Your whole outlook starts to change. And as he said, it's not something that's going to happen, one day. It's going to take some time. Consistently commit to like 6 months. Say to yourself, I'm going to do whatever this path is, and I'm going to truly commit to it for 6 months and see what happens. And if it doesn't, hey, it's only 6 months of your life. Who cares? You can now walk around saying, that was wrong. But what you might notice is in that 6 months, everything completely turns around for you. And that's what we're all looking for. So anyways, that's all we got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on any of your podcasting or YouTube stuff, please subscribe, like, share it. It does help us. And that's all I got. So in the meantime, now that you know better, do better. Peace.